Hi class, Mrs. Calvi here. Quick review on ratios and their equivalents. So a ratio can be written three different ways. And a ratio is a comparison of two quantities using division. And I'll give examples of that in a second. So if we're talking ratios, we can write them three different ways. We can write them in fraction form. So we can have a ratio written as 5/4, or we can write it using the word 2, 5/4, or we can use a colon to represent a ratio. All right, so these are the three different ways we can write a ratio. And as I said, a ratio is a comparison of two quantities using division. So for example, let's say I had this chart. Okay, so let's say I had this information about different instruments, and I wanted to know the ratio of violins to, say, trumpets. So the ratio of violins to trumpets would be 29/3 written as a fraction using the word 2 or using a colon. So this is where a ratio is comparing the quantities of two different things using division. So in this case, we are comparing different instruments. So if I wanted to know what the ratio of flutes to horns would be, flutes to horns would be 5/6. 5 flutes to 6 horns. Okay, pretty simple. So remember, three different ways to write ratios. And then if we wanted to write an equivalent ratio, you're thinking about equivalent fractions, which is pretty simple. So if I am using the flutes to horns example, 5/6, and I want an equivalent ratio to that, easiest thing to do is write it in fraction form. So an equivalent ratio, don't forget, equivalent fractions, you would multiply or divide the numerator and denominator by the same number. So I'm going to pick 2 for multiplication. 5 times 2 is 10. 6 times 2 is 12. So the ratio 5/6 and 10/12, those are equivalent. All right. Don't forget, when we use division, the numerator and the denominator have to be divisible by the same number in order to use division. So if I had the ratio 5/10, I can use division here by dividing both by 5. And I would get 1/2. So the ratios 5 to 10 or 5/10 is equivalent to the ratio 1/2 or 1 to 2. Okay? So pretty simple. Equivalent ratios, it's just like coming up with an equivalent fraction. And that's pretty much all you need to know about ratios and their equivalents. I will talk to you guys soon.